power doesn't always need cruelty. Sometimes it only needs permission. In 1971, deep inside the psychology basement of Stanford University, a small experiment was meant to explore behavior. Instead, it exposed the fragility of conscience, how quickly empathy dies when authority says it's allowed. This is the dark psychology of the Stanford Prison Experiment, a study that was supposed to last 2 weeks, but collapsed after 6 days. Dr. Philip Zimbardo wanted to understand how ordinary people adapt to power. He recruited 24 male college students. Normal. Healthy. Average. No criminal records. No psychological issues. Half became guards, half became prisoners. They built a mock prison in the basement of Stanford's psychology building, complete with barred doors, tiny cells, and a windowless solitary confinement room called the Hole. The prisoners were arrested at their homes by real Palo Alto police, blindfolded, stripped, and issued ID numbers. The guards were handed batons, mirrored sunglasses, and vague instructions. Maintain order, don't use violence. It began as theater. But within 48 hours, the act became real. At first, the prisoners treated it as a joke, laughing, singing, and mocking the guards. They thought it was all part of the game. That illusion didn't last long. The second morning, the prisoners refused to leave their cells for roll call. They blocked the doors with beds, tied their uniforms around their heads like war paint, and shouted that they were done playing. They thought defiance would make Zimbardo laugh, that it would break the spell. But the guards didn't laugh. They arrived with fire extinguishers, blasting cold CO2 through the bars until the prisoners backed away choking. They tore down the barricades, stripped the men naked, took their bedding, and threw the ringleaders into the hole. The rebellion ended in less than an hour. And something changed. The guards realized they could do anything, and no one stopped them. Zimbardo watched from behind a one-way mirror and did nothing. It didn't take power to corrupt them, only the illusion of it. The next morning, the guards began asserting total control. They enforced roll calls, called counts, at random hours, sometimes at 2 or 3 a.m. Prisoners were ordered to stand still for hours. When they faltered, they were forced to do push-ups, sing humiliating songs, or scrub toilets with their bare hands. One guard, Dave Eshelman, decided to make things more interesting. He slipped into a southern accent and started calling himself John Wayne. At first, he said later, it was an act, a caricature of a movie villain. But the longer he played it, the less he could stop. I thought I was pretending, he recalled years later. Then I realized I was enjoying it. The cruelty became routine. When one prisoner refused to eat, the guards made others perform his chores. If anyone complained, they were punished together. Group suffering bred silence. Then came prisoner 8612, Douglas Corpy. After just 36 hours, he broke. He screamed, cried, and begged to leave. Zimbardo thought he was faking. He even considered keeping him inside as a troublemaker. Only when Corpy's hysteria became uncontrollable did they let him go. Once free, he told reporters he'd just been sick of the bullshit, a line that sounded casual, but underneath it was shame. Because he, like everyone else, had started believing the prison was real. He could have walked away, Zimbardo later said, but he'd forgotten he could. By day 4, the rebellion was gone. The prisoners stopped resisting. They lined up without orders, spoke softly, and addressed guards as Sir. Some developed psychosomatic symptoms, headaches, stomach pain, even rashes. One stopped eating altogether. Another began crying uncontrollably during roll call. Zimbardo introduced visiting hours to make the prison feel more authentic. Parents came, signed fake documents acknowledging the conditions, and told their sons to behave. Even they accepted the illusion. That night, the guards created their own punishments, arbitrary, pointless, cruel. They made prisoners clean toilets in the dark, sing degrading songs, and repeat their ID numbers until dawn. By morning, obedience was automatic. The experiment no longer needed force, just expectation. They didn't ask, "Is this right?" They asked, "Is anyone stopping me?" By day 6, Zimbardo's girlfriend Christina Maslach came to visit. She saw the filth, the fear, the way grown men avoided eye contact. She turned to Zimbardo and said, "What you're doing to these boys is terrible." It snapped him out of his role. For the first time, he saw what everyone else had stopped questioning. He ended the experiment that night. It took an outsider to see what everyone inside had stopped questioning. This wasn't about prisons. It was about people. It revealed that evil doesn't require hatred, only hierarchy. Authority corrupts instantly when it goes unchallenged. People obey not because they're bad, but because they're human. And once obedience becomes expectation, conscience becomes optional. We've always known this. Centuries earlier, Lord Acton warned, "Power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely." Zimbardo's version proved it, not as philosophy, but as biology. He concluded, "The situation, not the person, dictates behavior." But the deeper truth is harder. The situation is made of people who stopped asking why. 50 years later, the experiment still echoes. In workplaces where managers humiliate employees under the mask of standards. In online mobs where anonymity breeds cruelty. In politics where orders are obeyed for the greater good. The Stanford basement became a blueprint, not for science, but for systems. Every institution that rewards obedience without empathy risks becoming a prison, with or without bars. In the decades since, critics have dismantled parts of the study. Some guards claimed they were coached to act tough. Others said the cruelty was exaggerated. It may not have been perfect science, but that was never the point. Even if the stage was built, the actors still became the roles. The psychology holds true. Give power without accountability, and most people will test its limits. The lesson doesn't depend on perfection, only on human nature. Have you ever seen someone change completely when given a little authority? A boss, a moderator, even a friend. Drop it below. Power doesn't just reveal character, it rewrites it. Zimbardo later admitted his biggest regret wasn't the cruelty, it was how long it took to see it. He spent the rest of his life teaching how to resist the same psychology he revealed. That's where our defense begins. Every act of dehumanization begins with a label. Employee, inmate, follower, dissenter. Every label hides a face. Every number hides a name. When we forget the person behind the title, empathy dissolves. Awareness begins the moment you notice the language changing. Every act of blind obedience begins with 1 second of silence. That second is power, the space where morality can return. If something feels wrong, don't rush the moment. Pause. Reflect. Ask why. That's how awareness turns into courage. Healthy systems encourage dissent. Unhealthy ones punish it. Any structure, government, company, movement, that demands silence is already building its own prison. Systems must reward conscience, not compliance. Ask yourself, does this action humanize or dehumanize? Would I do this if nobody was watching? Am I acting or just complying? When you can answer those honestly, manipulation loses its grip. After the fallout, Zimbardo founded the Heroic Imagination Project, a global program teaching moral courage, leadership, and resistance to passive conformity. He learned that awareness could be taught the same way obedience once was. That heroism isn't rebellion, it's conscience with timing. From studying the worst in people, he began teaching the best. The Stanford Prison Experiment ended after 6 days, but its echo never stopped. Every generation rebuilds that basement somewhere new. Sometimes it's a corporate office. Sometimes it's a comment section. Sometimes it's just one person with power and no one to say no. Power doesn't change people. It reveals who they become when no one questions them. This was Deceive and Believe. If you want more dark psychology exposed, hit like, subscribe, and stay sharp, because manipulation never sleeps.